All right, guys. So tonight is our last collab for media studies, 7322. Sorry, I just had the first years. Well, the second year is doing media one. So tonight we are going to break down the summative assignment. I know you have just finished the practical assignment. And I was super impressed with those submissions. So now it's time to move on to the summative. I have, with some of the others, gone through the basic foundations in the previous lab about what is expected in the summative assignment, but I'm going to break it down again tonight in detail. And please feel free to ask any questions that you may have. The first thing I will say is that this is getting submitted in a traditional format, meaning it is just being submitted as an assignment, no website or anything like that. So you're just submitting it straight onto SafeAssign like you would any other submission. So just make sure that it's there to generate the SafeAssign reports. And yeah, just to say, please be careful with your referencing. Shame, Aaron. I get it. But I will say the quality of the websites were really good overall. So, if they just made you add to the website, it would have been fun. But I totally get it. You guys are done. So now you just want to focus on the writing, get it over and done with, so that you can breathe a little easier. So the one nice thing is that the POE is only due on the 22nd of November. So you still have other stuff along the way, but it does mean it is one of your later submissions. So while we're going through it tonight, listen, engage, and then put it away for a week or so, or even two, and then deal with it. Because I know you have research and comms and English and all that. So I'm going to go through everything, listen, think about what I'm saying, but then focus on the other things, and then you've got a bit of time between your submissions to get this done, which is really nice. So I will say, thankfully, I didn't have any issues with referencing with the assignments, so I'm assuming I'm not going to have any issues with referencing at all for the summative assignment. Please just make sure that you use your in-text referencing, that you integrate sources, that you are thinking about how you use those sources to support, and that you are using sources that add value and that are not just there for the sake of being there, but actually give me further knowledge and understanding from your perspective. Okay. It is your final submission. I will be pedantic. Please watch your commas, watch your reference list, watch everything. Okay. Especially because you guys, this is a third year level module. It's an exit level module, so you do need to be very particular. It is also because of that I have to be more strict with the word count, because I don't know who's going to externally moderate you, and while I might give you a buffer, they might not approve of that, so I am going to have to be more strict on that. Okay, but if you guys do what you did for your assignments, I will be happy. Okay, so just to explain to you guys, so you can just zoom in your side, you have got 3 questions in the summative assignment. I'm holding up 3 fingers as if you can see, and it's all relating to women of color, WOC, empowerment in African media. So the aim here is that you should be able, you've got to talk to and be able to explain the value and importance of women of color within the African media context. Okay, so it says, please take note. Okay, so sorry, I jumped. For this scenario, you are tasked with analyzing, critiquing, and theorizing solutions based on several African media efforts and campaigns. Given the significance of this topic, you're required to conduct your own research on women of color empowerment and its representation in African media texts, considering post-colonial context. So you need to have a formal and professional approach to your answers and make sure everything is sourced accurately. Okay. So please look at the word count and stick within it. Okay. And use that rubric to help you. You will notice that the questions, so there's 3 questions, and the word count shifts from question to question. Okay. So it's really important to, well, the first one is for 800 words. The next ones are for up to 2,000 words. So it's a big jump between question 1 and question 2 and 3. Okay. So the one thing I will say with question 1 and 3 is that you need to use a report format. You're using an informative report format. Okay. And what you guys need to do, I'm going to put here in the chat box. This is the textbook, and you've got to use that formatting. You used it for media studies last year when you guys wrote your report. So I do know that I have spoken to you about it beforehand. So please go and read this formatting. Make sure that you follow it in terms of your introduction, your preliminaries. Why my tongue trips over that every time. Your findings, conclusions, and then your recommendations. That you're able to use bullet points as long as you explain these points in full and don't try and summarize them so that you miss the key information. It's all about making sure that I can still get a comprehensive understanding, even though it's in a report format. Even though it is a report, you still need full in-text referencing. All 3 questions need referencing. So it's just for question 1 and question 3, you're using this report format. Are you guys clear on that? I come from campus and we didn't tackle report format. Oh, Bernice, did you not do media studies 1? Or are you still doing it? Sorry, let me just pull up the sorry, typing the wrong thing. Oh, you're still doing it. Okay. All right. Oh, and media studies this year has changed. You don't have the formatting. You don't have the report format. So it was only done in last year's submission. So this year's one is not going to help you. Okay. I'm just going to pull up the textbook for you now, because what the textbook actually does is it gives you an example of the formatting that you need to use. So it's actually so you guys will be focusing on chapter 19 and 20 for the assignment, for the summative assignment. Sorry, it's just asking me to sign in while let me just sign in while I'm talking. So you're going to be focusing on chapters 19 and 20. And let me just double check that I'm saying the other right chapters at the same time. So, and in this business communication textbook, there's also chapter 19, which is all to do with reports. So, sorry, now of course, now that I'm searching, my laptop is going ultra slow, just to be difficult. Okay, just give me a second to load it. So what's important here is that it does break it down for you very nicely. It shows you what needs to be in each section. So you're not having to think too intensely. It's just more about following this format. Okay, let me take you to my screen. So I just wanted to get there before. Okay, so this is the textbook that I've just shared with you guys. And when it loads, let me just make a permalink for you guys while I'm here. Okay, I've given you the name of the book, but I'm also going to give you a permalink. So just to show you. So you can see you're going to be using your informative reports. These convey the facts of a situation. So you are just presenting the facts. You're not analyzing. You're not investigating. you're not doing progress, you are saying it as it is. Okay, so they give you a background into what is expected. And then here we talk about, so this is where you need to be aware of. So from this page, so page 368. Sorry about that. So here it talks about what is in the preliminaries. So there is a title page, acknowledgements, which you make up. You can acknowledge your cat, your dog, your anything. Hold on, guys, I just need a cough and I don't want to cough. Sorry, just a bit sick at the moment. So you can make up your acknowledgements. Then there is terms of reference. There is an executive. So the terms of reference are what you've been instructed to do. So the brief. So write a report on, and then we're going to go through the questions now. Then it is the summary of what was in your research, your table of contents, list of illustrations if applicable, glossary if applicable, list of symbols. Then in the actual report itself, there's introduction, the procedure for gathering information, so how you gathered and how you brought all that information together, the findings, so what are the facts that you found out from your research, the conclusions, recommendations based on the findings and the conclusions, a reference list, and then the appendices, which you won't have. But like you're saying, for an example, here it actually gives you examples of every single section. So it'll say here, example, and it will break down that particular section it's working on. Here with the acknowledgements, it gives you an example. So that's why I like this textbook, because it does give you a step-by-step example with each section. So there is no question of what you're trying to do and what is expected of you. It's all really straightforward and to the point here, which is really nice for you guys. They do also give you an example from Grammarly in the last question, which you may also use. So both are completely acceptable. They both follow the same format. I have looked through it, but this book does give you all the nice examples. So does that help? I know, Erin, the 800 words is hard with the headings. Just try keep the headings and subheadings as brief as possible so that you've got more word count than subheadings. But yes, I know it's tight. Rather do bigger groups of information than smaller, like lots of little subheadings. Normally, I'd happily give you more word count, but I'm so scared that I'm going to give an exit level module a higher word count, and then the external moderator's harsh, and then we have bigger problems. Okay, so let's actually have a look what you're going to do in this report. Okay, so what they do is they do give you the, in this case, report topic, and then they break it down further for you guys. So, so there's an article here which looks at women fact checkers. And what's really nice about this article is that it actually looks at multiple countries. Excuse me. No, it's not no longer available. Hold on. It's just... Okay, I looked at this article like a day ago. So why? Okay, I'm just highlighting it again. It's just giving me the wrong URL. There we go. Okay, again, going to share my screen with you guys now. Sorry, I clicked share camera, which is a scary thought. Okay, so here's the article. And what's really important in this article is that it talks about misinformation, it talks about fact checking from multiple perspectives. So if you have a look, they talk about Nigeria, they talk about South Africa, they talk about Liberia, they talk about all the different, Kenya is another one. They talk about a whole bunch of different countries, which is really, really nice, because it means it's not just a South African perspective. The other thing you guys have got to remember is that when you're looking at this particular section, is that when we think of Africa, we are still living in a very patriarchal society. And if you look, like I said, you guys are going to be focusing on chapter 19 and 20 and chapter 5. Okay, so chapter 5, 19, and 20. And chapter 19 specifically deals with gender and sexuality, looking at patriarchy in the media. And that's something you need to bring in here, because one of the issues that arises with fact checking, from a female perspective, is that we are still living in a very patriarchal society within Africa. And that means that in some cultures and some countries, women are not allowed in certain areas, women are excluded from things, women are seen as not having as much say or as much power as men. So it's not just looking at, when you look at the challenges and what have you, it's, you've got to bring in the whole gender balance and looking at Africa as a whole, because while there are pockets of areas where women are seen as equals and have as much influence and power, we still do have many parts of Africa that still have this imbalance when it comes to gender. So if you look at chapter 19, it talks about patriarchy, it talks about feminism. So all of that you can bring into here. You can also bring in how in some contexts girls are not taught the same content as boys in certain countries. Those are just examples I'm giving you to just give you a little bit of guidelines. So what your report must be of no more than 800 words. Describe the extent to which ICT, so this is chapter 5, can be used in the Global South for ethical female journalistic practices using practical examples. They do talk about ICTs earlier in chapter 1 and 2 as well. It's one of the early topics, but the Global South content is specifically chapter 5. So your ICTs is your technology. I'm just trying to see broadcasting, television, digital shift in contemporary Africa. Yeah, it's mostly chapter 5. But the ICT concept is discussed throughout the textbook. So the use of technology, the use of media, and why, how technology is used within our new decolonialized context. Okay, so it is important. You'll find there is some stuff in chapter 1 that you can use that will help you. Chapter 2 is all about the history, but it does bring in some stuff about ICTs. So maybe you can draw in chapter 1 and chapter 2. Like I said, 5 and 19 are going to be your primary chapters that you're going to use for this question. So just to break it down further here, we have the benefits of using ICT. So what you need to include, the benefits of using ICTs. In global, that makes no sense. The benefits of using ICTs in the Global South for ethical female journalistic practices, because the whole idea here is the ethical considerations that need to be taken into need to be put into perspective to make sure that things are being done in such a way that, because of our patriarchal society, that the fact-checking is not called into question because it's done by women. Then you need to talk about the potential challenges female journalists could experience in the implementation of ICTs in fact-checking media services in the Global South. Again, remember, it's about what people are exposed to and how different genders are exposed to different levels of ICTs, or maybe some countries are more impoverished than others, so they have not got the same ICT experience. But again, bringing in that stuff from chapter 19. Then you've got to give your recommendations, which is the effective solutions that could potentially overcome the challenges female journalists could experience in the implementation of ICTs and fact-checking media services in the Global South. So what is important here is that the way in which they have presented these bullet points is they presented it in a traditional essay format. But you need to think about what would go under your findings, what would go under your conclusions, what would go under your recommendations, what would go in the abstract or the summary. You need to work out which of these points go with each of the different sections of the report. So it's about making sure that they're, if you follow this like an essay, it's not going to come out correctly in your report. Does that make sense, guys? Any questions on question 1? Remember, this is for 25 marks. So it is the shorter or smaller of the questions. Right, no questions. Right, then we're going to go on to question 2. Okay, so this one is another discourse analysis. Okay. So it's like some of you did, not all of you, but some of you did the discourse analysis of question 4, where you use that multimodal toolkit. Same thing goes for this question. So it says advertisements play a significant role in advancing the empowerment of women of color in decolonized South African media contexts. These advertisements go beyond mere marketing and can be instrumental in challenging historical injustices, fostering inclusivity, and promoting self-empowerment amongst women of color in South Africa. So in this instance, you are going for a South African context, which is important because obviously how we within South Africa handle how we handle female representation and inclusivity is different to other parts of the world. So in the Give Her a Crown campaign, hashtag Give Her a Crown campaign, empowered by Jaguar South Africa, exists to change the narrative for South African women by telling the stories of the survivors, the activists, the pioneers, and the next generation. The campaign has also played an important role in uplifting female artists by providing a platform to showcase their talent and share their stories to inspire women. As part of their campaign, a series of advertisements were created. So let us watch the video or the advert. Okay, so we're going to watch this and then we will look at how it works in terms of an
I imagine a future where women are not limited by lack of resources, poverty, abuse.
Young women and future generations are going to empower themselves. I'm hoping that we're evening or starting up something that will make it easier for the next generation.
That's what Give Her a Crown is to me. It's this platform to be a voice for many, many other women out there.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Experience Johannesburg. For us at Jaguar, it is important that the same level of innovation, creativity, and purpose is shown in all the products and campaigns that we partner with. For us, this campaign where we share an ethos of empowering women and celebrating our fearless spirits.
As a South African woman, I am absolutely delighted to see men and women come together and say, this far and no further. No more violence. It is not okay.
For me, Give Her a Crown is an opportunity for myself as an artist to contribute towards a cause that is very close to my heart.
I'm honoring somebody and I'm giving her something that she deserves.
Giving someone a crown is to recognize them as either a queen or a princess.
What used to be seen as like sort of royalty, kind of bringing it down to an everybody ground of royalty and just really evening out the battleground so everybody is royalty.
I'm a recovering alcoholic, and alcohol-related stories around women abuse is quite rife. So for me, this campaign connected to my own story.
I think we should actually believe in justice and believe that we are all equal.
For future young women, I'd say they need to be independent.
Speak about it as an artist, not just a woman that can create a body of work that could speak in volume.
I called my piece Listen, and it's about listening to the environment, but also about listening to each other.
We should take the responsibility to speak up against like gender-based violence and speak for what's right and speak about what's wrong.
Give Her a Crown has a future, of opening these discussions and like really helping us to talk about this with more ease through art, through creativity.
Okay, so that is the campaign. So it's not your stereotypical campaign video where it's not like the one I had to do previously with the BMW. Like, it's not very flashy and all that. It's more about storytelling. It's more about giving context. It's more about helping people to understand what the vision is for those who are involved in this campaign, and giving them not only the platform to write about it, to create and speak and show their work, but also to speak about it through the video, to show their perspective, show what they're trying to achieve, what they're hoping for. So it's about combining those visuals with the audio, with the background music, with what they are saying, to try and create this sense of empowerment for women. Because within our context, within the South African context, giving a woman a crown is putting her up on a pedestal. It's making her have the sense of pride in self-worth, having them feel like they have the power to be part of change and to create change. And that's what this Jaguar campaign is trying to do. And remember what I said with the BM one, it's that these companies like Jag, like BM, and all the others, they are trying to use their platforms to create social awareness. Part of their CSI social initiatives, and it's trying to create awareness around topics because they're an established brand. Everyone knows who Jaguar is. If they're not releasing new cars or whatever, they still want to be part of the everyday narrative. So they release these campaigns and they do these programs as initiatives to create social awareness. It makes them look good, and it tries to highlight the injustices using their power and their voice within society. Okay, so you guys are going to do another discourse analysis. Okay, so this is not new for you guys, for those who did chapter 14, but obviously I've broken it down already for you guys. And we went into detail into all the different steps and all the different elements that you need. So you're going to use that multimodal toolkit again, and you are going to break the campaign down in terms of the story it's telling. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to speak to the effectiveness of this advert. So sorry, let me start from the beginning. Write an academic essay in which you conduct a discourse analysis on the given advertisement, discussing the effectiveness of this advert in a decolonial media text in our post-apartheid South African media context. So how it's trying to represent the South African perspective, how we are as a people now rather than the past, trying to give a voice to those who previously did not have a voice. So again, it's your analysis of the various elements within this South African context. What is important for you guys is to make sure that you use the various elements of this multimodal toolkit to make sure that you are speaking about the sound, when you are talking about the texture, when you're talking about the visual elements. It's everything. So it's chapter 15 of your textbook. So we're going to add that one in. So it's all about making sure that you use those elements of that multimodal toolkit. So far we say chapter 1 you can use but little bits and pieces, chapter 2, chapter 5, chapter 15, chapter 19, and then you'll use chapter 20 for question 3. Okay, so those are your main chapters you're going to be using. Okay, so for this, you are thinking about, it says here, critically examine the concepts of ideology, representation, and discourse used in the advertisement. So again, it's your analysis of those. You're going to look at the underlying meanings, the target audience, materiality aspects of the advert, such as shape, texture, placement, all that stuff that's in that multimodal toolkit. And then you're going to have a discussion on the overall effectiveness of this advert and campaign as a decolonial media text in South Africa. You can be for it or against it. I am not going to mark you negatively either way, as long as you justify your answer. You might think it works, you might think it is severely lacking. I don't mind, as long as you justify your answer. And you need to have 4 credible sources total. So the video, which you will reference, the textbook, and then 2 additional sources. How do you guys feel about that one? So 1,500 to 2,000 words. Questions, comments? Okay. All right, well then let's move on to the last one. All right, so, oh, sorry, I just forgot there's a little thing about there. You obviously have to do research into the Give Her a Crown campaign, which at this stage is, as a 3rd year module, you guys know that additional research is 100% needed to be, academically sound. Okay. All right. Let's have a look at question 3. Okay, so now this one is slightly different. Okay, so again, a report, but this is looking at the youth. Okay, so it says South African government's Department of Communication and Digital Technologies aims to establish an enabling environment for the provision of inclusive communication services to all South Africans in a manner that promotes socio-economic development and the investment through broadcasting, new media, print media, and other new technologies, and to brand the country locally and internationally. Key to this role is an active understanding of subcultures among the youth and the consideration of gender constructions influenced by dynamic and evolving social and political movements such as feminism. So, like I said, you're going to be using chapter 19 and 20 as your theoretical framework for this question. Okay. So there are these 2 articles which you guys can go and have a look at. What you do need to understand is these articles don't only speak to South Africa, and why. So even though they're wanting the South African context, because you're writing it to the Minister of Communication and Digital Technologies in SA, what you can do in your findings and conclusion section, you can look at what other countries are doing and use that then in your recommendations. So if another country in Africa is doing something well, you can use it as a juxtaposition to what is being done within our own South African context. Does that make sense to you guys? Just to make sure that you understand how you incorporate that other stuff. All right, so again, you're doing another informative report, 1,500 to 2,000 words, okay? And now it clearly states who you are addressing, the Minister of Communications and Digital Technologies, and you're going to explain, you're going to critically discuss what chapters would be best used for question 3, chapters 19 and 20, because 19 deals with feminism and female representation, and 20 looks at youth and subcultures. So you're going to be using those. And then obviously your own research on top of that. Okay. So what you're going to discuss is the significant role of the media in structuring post-colonial discourse, so conversation, around feminism and the subculture of next generation Black female entrepreneurs in Africa. So you can use examples like Soweto. That's actually one of the best examples you can use. Here they talk about some other women in other communities. Like I said, they do speak to other countries, which you can use as a point of reference. Okay, because it does say here in Africa. Hold on one second. So what is important here is that while you're talking about the South African context, because it says in Africa, you can use Africa as a source of a point of reference, which works in your favor. Okay. So it says provide articles. The provided articles should form part of the examples discussed in the report. So they're going to be referenced, and then obviously required to integrate and discuss information from other sources in your response. Okay. So again, going on to the next page, like I've said in question 1, they are writing this out like an essay. You are expected to work out what sections will go into what section of your report. So the first one is the significant role the media has in propagating feminism in South Africa's media and entertainment industries. The importance of media representation of youth subcultures and post-colonial Africa. Potential challenges the Department of Communication and Digital Technologies could experience in the representation of African feminism and youth subcultures in South Africa media context. Again, that's when you can use the other countries as a point of reference. And then your recommendations on how to improve the representation of African feminism and youth subcultures in South African media context. Okay, so obviously the recommendations is the recommendation section, but then the other 3 points you've got to work out where you're going to put it. Are you going to put it under your findings? Are you going to put it under your conclusions, your recommendations? Where are you going to fit in this content? So it's about the way you research. It's about what you find out and then putting it into the correct sections so that I can give you the marks accordingly. Okay, so what is really important is to think about things clearly. Try not to have too much repetition. And how you do that is by making sure that you put the right work into the right sections. And if you need to speak to something that you've already discussed, say, as explained in the findings, and then talk about it. So you're showing me that you can see the connection to the work which you've already discussed. All right. Questions from you guys? I know this one is long, but again, as long as, and here, see, they give you that Grammarly link on how to write a report. So what's important here is to make sure that you either use textbook or you use this Grammarly report and you use it for both of your reports. Guys, like I said, I know you're not going to be dealing with this right now. I know you've got your other assessments due before this one. Please know that when it comes time for your assessment, like when it's that week before or whatever, if you have questions on that, please just ask on the group. I'm more than willing to answer. I will be marking, so I will have my phone off while I'm marking, but as I take breaks, I will go back to my phone and see what you guys have asked me. Because if I keep checking my phone every time I get a message during marking season, I get no marking done. So every hour or so, I check my phone, check nothing, and check if you guys have asked me any questions, and I will respond then. Okay. Any questions at all to do with this summative assignment? Yeah, like I say, I know you're not going to be tackling with it now, so it's hard to say, give me questions when you need that time to, you know, break it down, think about it before you get to it. Okay. All right, then that's it from me. It's for our last collab together for media studies. I hope you found this helpful, guys. Please let me know if you need anything, and I am here for you as much as you need. It's a pleasure, guys, and I'll chat to you closer to the time.